Chapter 1, The Sky Above the Mountain. The air in Anson smelled of rust, wet asphalt, and dried blood. Zack Lee stood over the unconscious body of Jackie Lee, chest heaving, hands shaking. He had won, but it didn't feel like victory. Not when he'd been forced to fight like a thug instead of a boxer. He had stomped Jackie's foot, gouged his eyes, headbutted him like a street animal. As Zack wiped blood from the corner of his mouth, shame crawled up his throat. A few meters away, Daniel Park stood tall. Hudson On, the man with iron fists, the king of Anson public, lay defeated at Daniel's feet. Daniel's breathing was steady, his clothes weren't even wrinkled. He shone like someone born to win. Then there was Vasco. The leader of Burn Knuckles was kneeling in the mud, sobbing uncontrollably. His massive frame shook, but not because of pain. It was because he was staring at his own chest, covered in fresh, ugly scribble-like tattoos. Before that, Vasco had floored one of Channing's tattoo machine assistants with one strike, dropping him so fast the man had collapsed to his knees, begging like a dog. Please, I'm sorry, I'll stop, just don't hit. Vasco's fist silenced him instantly. One punch, lights out. But then Channing's needle carved its way through Vasco's skin, and even Vasco, the strongest delinquent of his division, had been overwhelmed and beaten down afterward. Jace got hurt because of me, Vasco cried, mud and tears mixing on his face. And now I look like a villain, I look like a monster. Zack felt heat building inside him, hot, choking, humiliating. Vasco cried because he cared too much. Daniel stood straight because he was perfect. And Zack was just standing there, useless. I promised to change, but I'm still nothing. The ground trembled. A massive shadow swallowed the alleyway. Matesu stepped forward, the first-generation king of Anson. A man built like a walking boulder, wrapped in a heavy fur coat. His eyes dragged slowly across Zack's weakened frame. You beat my subordinate, Tesu said flatly, lifting his thick right fist. Let's see what you really are. Zack raised his guard automatically, forcing his battered body to respond. Iron boxing, his last defense. I can take one. I have to. Boom. The punch wasn't a punch. It was artillery. Tesu's fist shattered Zack's guard instantly. Pain detonated through his bones. His ears rang. His ribs screamed. Zack's feet left the ground as his body slammed backward into a brick wall with a crunch that echoed across the alley. He slid down, paralyzed. The world vibrated like a broken TV screen. One shot. All my training, all my effort. And he crushed me like garbage. Disappointing, Tesu muttered. You were an ant. He stepped forward to finish Zack. When a blur dropped from the sky, a slender figure in a high school uniform landed lightly on the asphalt. A white mask, bright pink hair that glowed unnaturally under the streetlights. Not human, not normal. Zack didn't know his name. He only knew he had never seen anything like this monster. The pink-haired masked guy stood straight, hands tucked into his pockets. And suddenly the alley felt colder. Even Tesu, the mountain of Anson, flinched. Sweat dripped down his cheek. What happened next wasn't a fight. Tesu roared and swung. The masked guy blurred aside, balancing effortlessly on Tesu's arm, flipping off his fist, weaving through death blows like wind slipping through cracks. He didn't remove his hands from his pockets once. A finger hit the ground. Tesu screamed. Seconds later, the king of Anson was face down in the dirt, sobbing like a broken animal. Zack stared, unable to move. I'm an ant staring at a mountain, and the mountain is just a toy to whatever he is. He felt something inside him collapse. He would never reach that level. Never. Daniel and Vasco ran toward him. Zack, stay with me, Daniel said urgently, checking his breathing. Jaiho Park is still out there, Daniel added. I'll take care of him. You two are too hurt to keep going. No, Vasco cried, grabbing Zack's shoulder with his tattoo-covered arm. We go together. We're friends. Zack flinched. The heat in his body, his self-hatred, was boiling him alive. He couldn't save Johan. He couldn't help Johan's mother. He couldn't stand beside Daniel without looking pathetic. Get off me, Zack whispered. Zack, Vasco blinked. I said get off. Zack shoved him away, staggering to his feet. He couldn't look at them, not at Vasco's broken face, not at Daniel's worried eyes. I'm tired of being a burden. Just go, Daniel. Take care of him, take care of our smart Google boy. Vasco didn't understand the nickname. Daniel did, and that hurt worse. Zack turned his back on them and limped into the night. He wandered onto the main road of Anson. The heat radiating from his body made his vision swim. His skin steamed, every breath burned. People stared. Whoa, look at him. He's so hot, like an actor. Is that makeup? He looks crazy handsome. Compliments stabbed deeper than insults. Handsome. I'm trash. Weak. Useless. Nothing. He saw the pink-haired masked guy silhouette laughing at him. He saw Johan turning away. He saw Vasco crying in the mud. I should disappear. He stepped off the curb. He didn't see the red traffic light. Didn't hear the tires skidding. Didn't register the horn screaming at him. He only turned his head when blinding headlights swallowed his vision. A massive cargo truck was inches away. He didn't flinch. Didn't freeze. Didn't feel fear. Ah, so this is it. Relief washed over him. At least now, I don't have to lose anymore. Crash. Chapter 2, The Prank in the Mirror. Date, April 2nd, first year of J-High. Zack Lee woke up with a violent gasp, his hands flying to his chest in a panic. He braced himself for the cold, crushing weight of steel. He expected the blinding white lights of the truck, the screech of tires, and the sickening crunch of his own ribs collapsing. He waited for the darkness of death. Instead, his fingers sank into something soft. What? He blinked, his breath coming in shallow, terrified rattles. Harsh, bright morning sunlight spilled across the floorboards. Dust motes danced in the air, peaceful and quiet. Zack sat up slowly, looking around. This room, he knew this room. But it was different. It was clean, neat. It smelled of lemon pledge and hair wax, not sweat and depression. His boxing trophies on the shelf gleamed, untouched by the layer of dust that had covered them in his gloomy apartment years later. The Muhammad Ali poster above his desk wasn't peeling at the corners yet. The sunlight hit his school uniform, which hung perfectly pressed on the closet door. Nothing felt real. Am I in a hospital? Zack muttered, rubbing his pounding head. He checked his arms. No IV drips, no bandages, no scars from the Anson fight. Did I survive? He reached for his phone on the nightstand, his hand trembling. He expected to see a cracked screen, bloodstains, or missed calls from a worried Daniel. What he found was a pristine, brand new smartphone model that had gone out of style 3 years ago. The screen was smooth, untouched. He tapped the display. Sunday, April 2nd, first year of J High. Zack stared at the numbers. He scoffed, a dry, bitter sound, and tossed the phone onto the bed. Very funny. April Fool's was yesterday, you idiots. He ran a hand through his hair. Vasco probably changed the date while I was asleep. That muscle brain thinks he's a comedian. Or maybe. Daniel put him up to it. Zack Lee didn't read web novels. He didn't know words like regression or reincarnation. He was a fighter, a realist. To him, this was a prank. A weird, painfully elaborate prank designed to mess with his head after the accident. He swung his legs out of bed and walked to the full-length mirror in the corner of the room. All right, where are the cameras? He growled, scanning the room. Come out, idiots. Joke's over. He looked into the glass. He froze. The reflection staring back at him wasn't the battered, exhausted fighter who had been crushed by Matesu. It wasn't the man humiliated by the pink-haired monster in Anson. It was a kid. His skin was smooth, unblemished by the scars of street fights. His hair was stiff with way too much wax, styled in that arrogant, trendy spikes he used to think looked cool. His face still had baby fat. And his muscles, they were gone. Zack touched his arms. They weren't weak, he was still an athlete, but they were soft. Untested, undeveloped. The calluses on his knuckles from punching brick walls were missing. No way, Zack whispered. He touched his cheek, pinching the skin hard. Ow, pain, sharp and real. It wasn't a dream. He stumbled to the window and ripped it open. The cool morning air rushed in, smelling cleaner than the smog of the future. Down on the street, cars that he hadn't seen in years rolled by. A billboard down the block advertised a superhero movie that had come out when he was still in middle school. The realization hit him like a cold bucket of water. I'm back, Zack whispered, gripping the windowsill until his knuckles turned white. I'm really back. His heart hammered against his ribs, a mix of confusion, dread, and a terrifying spark of possibility. Buzz. His phone vibrated on the mattress. Zack walked back to the bed, moving as if he were underwater. He picked up the device. New message. Mira Kim. Don't forget. Tomorrow we're going shopping for school supplies. Coffee is on me. Don't make me wait like last time. Carrot. Zack stared at the name. The letters blurred for a second. Mira. In his previous life, he'd grown so ashamed of his weakness that he couldn't even look her in the eyes. He'd lied to her constantly, about his fights, about his victories, about the kind of person he was. He had pushed her away to protect her, only to die alone on a street corner. Shopping, Zack murmured. He looked at the date again. April 2nd, and then the meaning hit him like a sucker punch to the gut. If we're shopping tomorrow, then tomorrow is the day. His eyes widened in horror. Tomorrow was the day the transfer student arrived. Tomorrow was the day he first met Fat Daniel. He dragged a hand down his face, groaning. Oh, God, I remember. Back then, he had been an arrogant, insecure brat. He had tried to show off for Mira. He saw the chubby, scared transfer student, Daniel Park, and decided to bully him just to look cool. He remembered the feeling of his fist hitting Daniel's face. He remembered the feeling of power. And he remembered the aftermath. Someone had filmed it, and the internet did the rest. J-High boxing star bullies a fat kid. The viral video, the memes, the hateful comments flooding his social media, and worst of all, Myra's disappointed face. That look of betrayal and sadness that had burned permanently into his memory. I was such a loser, Zack muttered, clenching his jaw. Cocky just because I won a few middle school boxing matches, pathetic. He clenched his fist. It felt small and light. Not this time. I'm not bullying the pig, I mean, Daniel. Not because it's wrong, but because I won't look like trash again. Not in front of Mira. A rush of adrenaline shot through his veins. He was back. He knew the future. He knew about God Dog. He knew about the workers. He knew about Johan going blind. I can change everything, he whispered. I can fix everything. I can save Johan. I can prevent the tragedies. His eyes drifted to the heavy punching bag hanging in the corner of his room. I still have my skills, he said, a confident smirk touching his lips. My brain remembers everything. Fighting the Anson King. The timing, the angles, the footwork, all of it. He approached the bag. He didn't take the sloppy, wide stance of his teenage self. He dropped into the grounded, precise stance of a veteran street fighter. Let's test this body. He inhaled sharply through his nose. He visualized the perfect counterhook. Fast, sharp, deadly enough to rattle a skull. He threw it with full intent. Whoosh, slip, whoa, his foot slid on the floorboards. His balance collapsed instantly. The punch grazed the bag weakly, and because his wrist wasn't locked properly by the weak forearm muscles, it buckled on impact. Zack stumbled forward and fell hard onto his backside. Ow. Zack sat on the floor, rubbing his throbbing wrist. He stared up at the heavy bag. It had barely moved. It swung gently, mocking him. Weak, Zack whispered, his voice trembling with horror. I'm so weak. He looked at his arms. Thin, untrained, like noodles compared to the iron limbs he had forged in the future. I'm not even 10% of what I was against Jackie Lee. My balance sucks. My bones are soft. My skin is thin. The realization was terrifying. His mind possessed master-level technique, but his teenage body simply couldn't handle the torque. The hardware couldn't support the software. If he tried to fight a serious opponent right now, like Vasco, he would probably tear a muscle or break his own hand. He sat on the floor, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. I need to train, he whispered. I can't rely on past glory. This body is trash. His gaze drifted to the corner of the room. A metal baseball bat was leaning against the wall. A familiar, dark thought returned to him. Should I use weapons? Future enemies flashed through his mind. God Dog's numbers, hostile savagery, the workers' monsters. Monsters wearing human shapes. In the future, he'd fought dirty because clean fighting didn't keep you alive. He had used bricks, chains, and sand. Zack stared at the bat. No, Zack said, shaking his head violently. Tomorrow is just high school. If I can win with boxing, I'll use boxing. Why use a brick if a jab works? He stood up, dusting off his pants. The pain in his wrist was a good reminder. He was starting from zero. But if I meet someone I can't beat, if someone dangerous shows up. He remembered Matesu's punch, heavy as a mountain. He remembered his bones folding like cardboard. Then I'll do anything. I'll fight dirty, but only when I have to. He picked up his phone. Mira was waiting for a reply. He typed slowly, a small smile forming on his face. I won't be late, I promise. Let's try that punching machine game at the arcade too. He looked at his reflection in the mirror one last time. The arrogant kid was gone. The eyes staring back were old and hungry. I might be weak right now, he said quietly to the empty room. But I still punch better than any high schooler. Tomorrow, I start building my legend again. Chapter 2 end. Thanks for watching. You can find this story link in description. The world went black.